Hello everyone, this is Jason from Primetime Aquatics. Today I am bringing to you a fish store tour that is definitely top 3 all-time fish stores I've ever seen, possibly the best. Would love to hear from you after you see this video. Where does it rank for you? This store has an outstanding selection of fish and some of the best display tanks I have seen. It is the Fish Gallery located in Dallas, Texas. They always have the coolest displays at Aquascaping, and now I can see why. By the way, if you want more information on a lot of the fish featured in this video today, check out the description. We'll have a ton of species profiles for you there. Hope you enjoy the video. I think you're going to see very quickly why I say this is at least the top 3 fish store that I've ever been in. Again, this is Fish Gallery located in Dallas. If you're ever in the area, you need to stop by this fish store. You could see how well maintained all of these tanks were. There are a lot of display tanks as well. Very big store with pretty much everything you could possibly ask for in the fish keeping hobby. This was a 5,500 gallon tank, I believe. It was absolutely huge. It probably was somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 feet long, 4 feet tall, at least 3 feet wide. Just kind of guessing there, but they had a really interesting mix of fish. And what I found interesting about it is they're pretty much doing things where if you read on the internet, oh, you can't do that. You've got your parrotfish in here. You've got some African cichlids in here with some tinfoil barbs. I see filament barbs in here. You're going to see a fire eel a little bit later, as well as a large turtle. And yet, because of the volume, they're all getting along just fine. And I've kept mixes similar to this before, and it worked out just fine in what I would consider to be normal volume, 150 gallons or so. You got some rainbow fish in here as well. But this was an absolutely show-stopping tank, and when you walk into this pet store, you're going to see it. But they had some other Aquascape tanks as well, so I want to show you those. This was a very well done aquarium, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 60 gallons or so. What I loved about this tank is, check it out, the brilliant green rasbora. I love this fish. It's one of my favorite rasboras. I just don't think it gets enough attention. By the way, and I know I've mentioned this already, but if you want to see any species profiles for these fish, just check out the description below, because we'll have a bunch of them for you there, at least fish that were featured in this video. This was a very colorful tank with the parrot cichlids. You've got some frontosa in here, other peacocks, silver dollars. Very interesting tank. And here we've got some more parrot cichlids and some more African cichlids and some clown loaches. And so this was a different setup. Again, one of the cool things is you walk around this fish store and there's lots of tanks with a massive bow front with some Ecthrichthys heckelii, I believe, and we've got some firemouth cichlids and some clown loaches and some turquoise rainbows. What's really cool, it's one thing to have all these large aquariums, it's another thing to maintain them properly. And all of these aquariums, as you're going to see throughout, not only their displays but also the tanks where they're selling fish from, they're very clean and very well done. Here we've got the albino heckelii in this particular tank with some Buenos Aires tetras. You see the roseline sharks in here as well. Very cool mix of fish. I believe this was in their party room, and so they actually hold like birthday parties and stuff. Some pretty cool cory cats as well. And then this tank was in that party room, and I thought that was a great idea. Check this thing out. I don't remember how long this was. It had to be 15 feet long, but this was one of their koi display tanks. And what's cool about this is they actually had an underwater or under the tank display where you see that little bubble on the left hand side. You could actually go under there and put your head in there and look at the fish from in the middle of the tank, and this is the view you get when you do that. So that was a pretty interesting thing. But they have koi all over the place, goldfish all over the place, and it's pretty cool. But let's go ahead, let's talk about some of the fish they've got for sale. The Parkinsoni rainbows, they had so many rainbow fish, but it wasn't just that they had a lot of rainbow fish. If you're into these types of fish, it was the size and it was the colors that were really interesting. A lot of times when you go to pet stores and you're looking for rainbows are kind of like African cichlids in a way, like peacock cichlids, where you have to wait for them to kind of color up. Well, not here, you don't, because they had nearly full-size rainbows in many cases, or pretty close to it. And what was nice about that is there's no waiting. You can get to have those rainbows, put them in your tank, and have that great color right away. And so you don't have to wait as much. But rainbows have grown on me quite a bit. I didn't used to like them years and years ago, but the more I got into them, the more we've brought them into our fish room. I really appreciate their activity level, their schooling behavior, their community dynamics. And if you're looking for a fish that is going to school in the mid to upper level waters of your aquarium, it's going to be pretty active, maybe something you want to keep with some medium-sized South Central American cichlids, these are the fish. Madagascar rainbows are really cool too. And then again, the colors are really what sets these fish apart. Albino heckelii, I can't tell you when we're selling fish how many people have asked if we can bring these in. They're still relatively hard to find, and they are amazing fish. They're not cheap when you do find them, but they are definitely cool. Here we've got some dwarf gouramis, and so yes, they sell fish that pretty much a lot of people would want. The Actrictes heckelii, that's the standard. What was cool about their neons, I know this is a common fish, but what was so awesome is they were big. They were big, they had really great color. Look how nice and thick and full they are. They're not skinny, they're not all torn up, which is pretty cool. Love the rose-line sharks. Again, really healthy group, and they were a decent size. And of course, they had some discus, and the discus had absolutely outstanding color. They had a few different varieties, and they were right on the end, and so when you walked into the store, they were right on the left-hand side, very visible, very cool. This is a fish we used to breed a lot of, and that's the peacock gudgeon. They stay small, have great color, good for a 10-gallon aquarium or larger. They had some orange crayfish there. I'll show you a few other varieties later in the video. And of course, what's cooler than a tank full of puffers? It's a pretty awesome little sight with these guys looking every direction. And then they had some of the smaller rainbows. Here's the threadfin. Really like these ones a lot. Again, the males, big. They were sizable, at least for a small rainbow. What I loved about this tank, yeah, the loaches are totally awesome, very entertaining, but the chocolate gouramis. A lot of times when you go to a pet store, the chocolate gouramis can look, well, they can look a little rough. But that wasn't the case for this particular store. The chocolate gouramis were active and they were showing great color, and that's something you should definitely be looking for if you're interested in these fish, because sometimes they can be a little bit weak, but not particularly at this store. Here's some more dwarf gouramis. And then here we've got some electric blue acara. These were on the smaller side, but these will eventually grow up to be great looking fish. Again, the brilliant green rasbora, a fish I have talked about numerous times in the past as being one of my favorite rasboras. A very tight schooling fish if you're looking for a fish that's going to be mid-water. The golden giant gourami. Unless you've got a massive tank, probably not something you'd want to do. The angelfish all look good. They were, again, a decent size. Sometimes when people have problems with angelfish, it's because they buy them at around that dime to quarter size, and they can be a little bit tough to care for when they're that small. And again, we see here some electric German blue rams. And look at these veil tails. These veil tail angels were absolutely awesome. Here we've got the red tails. Kind of cool, but I really liked the shadow cats in here as well. We've had these in the past, great little fish. And then we've got the pandacories, and who doesn't love pandacories? They're always on the move. They're just great little fish. Cory cats form the big giant groups, really awesome. I like their betta tanks because, especially for their female betta tanks, they would have a group of them, which is kind of nice to see. Here are some more electric blue rams, very pretty. And then we've got the black neons. This is one of the hardiest neon types that you will find, and so if you're having trouble with the standard neons or cardinal tetras, try out the black neons. I know it's not the same color, but they are really awesome fish. Cherry barbs, the males have more color than the females. And then here's some young Congo tetras, and so they'd have to grow up a little bit to show a little bit more color and to get that finish that you're used to seeing. Same thing here with the lemon tetras. They were a little bit on the smaller side. Give them a little bit, and they will start to show even more color. The gold tetras is an interesting fish. As they get a little bit older, they start to turn more silver. And then we've got these awesome green phantom plecos. If you want a really expensive pleco that you may or may not see after you put it in your aquarium because they like to hide, this might be one for you. We've got the blue phantoms, and that's all they ever do is hide. They had a very large selection of African cichlids. I didn't put names on all of them, but they had a lot. You see the yellow labs here, some small frontosa. These African cichlids were another one when you walk into the store and you just start looking down the aisles because they were showing such amazing color. They were absolutely eye-catching. People are generally just drawn to them. Here you see some peacock cichlids, and it was the same thing. It's rare where you have an entire tank filled with male peacocks that are showing such good color and are looking healthy, and they're not all fin-nipped, and that is pretty darn awesome. Now again, I didn't put names on every single one of them, but if you're looking for African cichlids and you're in the area, this is definitely a place to check out. They also had a large variety of different OBs. They had blueberries, they had yellow, they had standard OBs, lots of different types. I really like these blue dolphin cichlids too. The fact that they were already starting to show some really nice color because they were a pretty decent size. And they had not only the African cichlids there, but you'll see throughout they had Lake Tanganyikan cichlids as well, which is cool. So if you're into like the shell dwellers and the rock dwellers, that's really nice. They got some jewel cichlids here. And then here we've got some red zebra cichlids and the red zebra blotch. And then we got the Demasoni. This is one of the meaner, more aggressive Mbuna cichlids. And then we've got the Rusties, which are pretty much the opposite, very easygoing Mbuna cichlid. And then, of course, you've got the parrots. They had this deep red parrot, and then they had the standards, which were a little bit more orange, if not almost somewhat kind of yellow. I needed to show you the Bergmori loach. I did a species profile on this fish a long time ago. It is probably my favorite loach. Really cool fish. I like the albino tinfoil barbs too. You just gotta have a really large tank to do them justice. Filament barbs are also a very cool fish. Here you've got the red tail sharks. You can see they've probably been sparring with one another a little bit because you're really, long term you keep only one to a tank because they can be rough on one another. Lemon Oscar, how cool is that? I'd really like to have a lemon Oscar in one of my tanks at some point. Rosy barbs are also very cool. Now, one of the ones I really liked, and that was the Odessa barb. I think as far as barbs go, and as far as like the smaller community fish, this was probably one of my favorites that I saw at the store because they had such great color. Here's some albino tiger barbs as well. So again, I can't stress it enough. If you are ever in the Dallas area, you got to check out Fish Gallery. Not only will you see all the really cool display tanks, yes, you're going to see a lot of cool fish for sale, but they have plants. They have a really large selection of dry goods and goldfish and koi, and it's a place where you could easily spend an hour. And again, nice, healthy fish, very clean aquariums. Thank you so much for being here. Again, if you want more information on some of the fish that were featured in this video, check out the description. There'll be a million species profiles for you down there. Appreciate you being here, and we'll see you in the next one.